Oh, I need my headphones.
Okay, so hello everyone.
Hello.
Hi Lukas,
Yeah.
Karen here. Today is the 22nd of November 2020,
Yeah.
and we have the third episode of the Cloud on Air podcast. Hello everyone, all of our one viewers right now on the screen. Yeah, but at least we are enjoying ourselves. Anyways, we are also recording it, so the podcast will be available as audio and also as a video in after the session. So, Lucas, how are you doing today?
I'm fine. I'm fine.
I would say quite busy, right?
Yeah, quite busy.
That's nice.
And you?
Yeah, I'm not as busy as you. Just kidding. Everyone is busy nowadays. Yeah, everything's okay. I will tell you one news today on from my side. I did a small Jamstack breakthrough, but we will come to it really soon. So
Nice.
yeah. Let's just cover quickly our past events from the last 2 weeks and the upcoming events which will take place either right now or in within the next 2 weeks. Anything from your side, like what happened within the last 2 weeks as an event, maybe?
I watched the Apple keynote with the new M1 MacBooks and Mac Mini. I'm kind of impressed, but on the other hand, also not because I hoped for a 12-inch MacBook Air, but it's just the
11 one.
already
11.
existing MacBook Air, which has a new processor in it.
Okay.
But
They currently have like it's an old story, but 11 and 13 inch, I guess, right? Air.
they only have the 13-inch Air.
Oh,
Yeah,
they dropped the 11-inch one.
yeah. They had, I think it was 12 inches, and it was really lightweight, and I liked it. This was the first, my first MacBook I had was the 12-inch Air, or
Hmm.
it wasn't called Air, it was just called MacBook. And yeah, it was really nice. I like very small notebooks, and yeah, but it was kind of slow, and so I dropped it. And yeah, now
Hmm.
I'm looking in if an ARM MacBook is a better option for me. But yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm an old guy. I catched, I think like maybe 7 years ago or so. Uh, um, MacBook Air 11 inch. I think it was
Mm-hmm.
11 inch. It was pretty small for a big guy. So at some point I dropped it. I not dropped physically, but I sold it because it was just way too small, the screen. But it was very cool, very, very lightweight. And I think I switched to something with 13 inch. I did have an Air and also a proper MacBook Pro in the past, but I as of now I don't have any Macs anymore. And but plenty of Linux machines, like different setups, and I'm pretty satisfied. I still have one Windows or a couple of Windows machines as well. So yeah, kind of
Yeah,
getting
I'm
along
kind
with
of
this.
a minimalist when it comes to computer size. I like my biggest machine is 14 inches, which is an old Lenovo ThinkPad, and I have another couple ThinkPads and my two 13-inch MacBooks. But yeah, I'm I mean 12 inches. There's a fly. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean
I'm very much into 14-inch ultra books. So it's
yeah.
very thin ones. I have one currently running on Windows, but there are like you can install Windows, and there are all sorts of Macs available also with small display size. I think 14 inch is kind of optimal size, at least in full HD. But sometimes you can get it also in 4K if you are dealing with video processing or whatever. It might be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm developing, I only need like 80 characters per per line, because yeah, I'm formatting my source code like this, maximum of 80 characters. It's oftentimes like 30 characters per line, and so I don't need like very big screens. I would better need like a screen that is not landscape, but yeah, is kind of vertically.
Portrait.
Yeah, portrait. And yeah, I'm looking into buying a bigger screen, which I will which I will put behind my laptop, and I will put it vertically, so I have like a lot of lines of code every time on the screen. Yeah.
Nice. So we will also have a chance to talk a little bit about this new Apple announcements, and there is something about the processors, what you, Lukas, also very excited about. We will talk about it. As of now, let's just cover another two events which happened within the last 2 weeks. One of them was Certified Jenkins Engineer study session, which we organized our community. It was on 12th of November 2020. And it went really nice. I was there as one of the organizers. We had 3 amazing speakers who already passed this exam. It's all about the exam called Certified Jenkins Engineer. And Jenkins is probably one of the most popular CI/CD tools out there. So very nice thing for the DevOps people, not so crazy probably for developers among us, but still it was a nice session, very nice. We have a recording saved with all the notes, so if you missed it, make sure to go to our YouTube channel and just look for it. It was on 12th of November. Another session was it went from 17th of November till 20th of November 2020. It was the KubeCon and Cloud Native Conference, North America. So this version was for North America. Still, everyone across the world could attend it because it was virtual, obviously, as everything this year. So I haven't attended really. I registered there. I logged in once.
I registered too, but I also forgot to participate.
Yeah, I didn't have much time at this time, like from 17th till 20th, and it was not so important in my book. But this KubeCon and Cloud Native Con are traditionally very cool conferences. So a lot of people, it's a kind of like a huge celebration for tech people. And it's not only about the tech, it's just hanging out together and stuff like this. But I somehow didn't get the spirit this time. Maybe because it was virtual and it was not very usual for the organizers. I do have a feeling they kind of lost this opportunity to make it very cool and invite a lot of people, because somehow they wanted it like in a traditional way. It's a paid conference. You cannot get for free there. Like, I think maybe there are some kind of scholarships you can apply for if you cannot afford the price of the ticket, but usually you have to pay, and it's not cheap. It goes, I think, from at least a few dozens of dollars till a few hundreds of dollars, if I'm not wrong. I haven't attended it in real life ever. So, but there are a lot of companies taking part there as co-organizers, as a kind. They have their own virtual booths there. So a lot of traction going on there. But somehow it was kind of a little bit lame, and this is just my impression. They did have a free pass this time, so you could only access the keynotes, and I guess that's pretty much it. There was not much for this free ticket, but then at some point I got from my from my network kind of messages that there is a voucher to register for the full event. And I tried to register, but it's so messy. I mean, the registration process is so crazy. You have to have an account with the Linux Foundation, I guess, and then it's not very easy. You have to register with the Linux Foundation. You have to have a non-free email, so your corporate email, which I don't have right now, and I don't care about it actually. But with your Gmail account, you cannot actually register there. What is the kind of nonsense? I don't know, like Linux Foundation, come on. Why do you need my corporate email if I'm not affiliated with any corporation, so I'm not worthy to be registered there even? Like, I don't get it. And then, I already used my corporate email for one account, and then I cannot change my free tier registration into the paid one with a voucher because of some technical reasons. I don't know what these guys are doing. So basically I said, like, you know what, I don't care about it. I will maybe attend the keynote, but I ended up even not attending the keynote. So really not very good experience as a virtual visitor. Okay, I understand, like, everybody's struggling this year with the virtual events and everything, new format. But come on, guys, you have to be inclusive, not as exclusive, with all these burdens along the way. So I wish next time it will be more cool, because I see like a lot of companies are participating there and probably a lot of cool stuff going on, but not this time. And I think many people made use of this offer, which was available during this event, where you could get a 50% discount for different kinds of Kubernetes certifications, which Linux Foundation is offering. The usual price is, I think, $300, and they could get it for $150 with a discount code obtained at this event. I haven't went for this one as well, but some people got very lucky because they got this huge discount. That's it pretty much about the past events.
In the meantime, I was offline. My internet connection broke down.
Yeah, very
like last time.
offline when it's not your terms, you're going offline. Probably doing some multitasking stuff, but don't worry, Lukas.
Yeah,
that's okay.
But I'm browsing a lot around the website of the CNCF because they are huge. If you look at all those projects they are incubating and that are already successful projects, I mean, Kubernetes is only one of them, and there are like dozens of other projects, and it's really amazing what they do. And they are just one subsidiary of the Linux Foundation, and yeah, it's really great what they are doing.
To be honest, I don't know how each of them related to each other. It just seems like to be some complicated mesh system here. But yeah, as you said, CNCF is pretty huge. Like, if you consider how many different projects are taking as an umbrella, I don't know how they're affecting these projects. Like, how is this? I have like a little bit feeling that it's a kind of more of a marketing kind of vehicle for these projects, to get in under this umbrella. And
I mean,
yeah,
it's more of a sort of consortium, like that they are there to so companies, so no one can say, yeah, this open source project is just pushed by Google or Amazon or whatever. So they can bring their projects a bit forward in a more neutral way, so it's not as commercial as it would be if just one of the big companies would push it. And so it's more of a committee who is responsible for the development, and they have working groups for every project, I think, and such structures and maintainers and core teams. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I saw several times when projects went from not proprietary actually, but it was an open source project which was attached to a specific company which created this project actually when it went under the CNCF, and it goes pretty well in most of the cases. Like I see it frequently, this kind of use cases, but I also see sometimes when small, really not very big, not very significant open source projects are getting under this umbrella, and for them this is a huge marketing vehicle just to spread their word out. They put it everywhere that we are affiliated with CNCF. Their logo and their homepage is being listed under these CNCF projects, and they have different tiers there. They have like incubation projects, like they call it either released projects or something
I
similar.
think graduated or
Graduated, yeah,
something. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, that's great for the open source. And this is great also for some specific open source projects which are being pushed by specific companies, and I see it very often, like projects even like Cassandra, like Jenkins,
Yeah.
and Terraform. These are primarily attached or somehow pushed primarily by specific companies, what is perfectly okay.
I mean, I think Cassandra is also under the umbrella of CNCF, or was it Apache? I don't
I
know.
think it's a Apache Foundation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
think.
another project I really like is gRPC, which is one of the incubating projects of the CNCF. Yeah.
Mhm. Initiated by Google and now under the CNCF umbrella.
Yeah. And they did a similar thing with AMP, accelerated mobile pages, which they transferred to the OpenJS Foundation, which is a foundation specifically for JS and all those browser-related tooling. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
So they're
now.
doing a similar thing with this. So
Yeah,
they try to, yeah,
I
try
think
to.
officially even Android is belonging to some kind of foundation, whatever, like some kind of consortia.
Hmm.
I forgot the name, but it was from the very beginning like a consortium which Google created just to push the Android platform. And there were several companies. I don't know how strongly they're contributing to the project, but it feels and it's being perceived by everyone, I think, in the world that actually only Google is like primarily is pushing it, despite officially it's not even a Google project, I guess. But there was some investigative journalism going on where it was figured out, like people they could figure out that Google was using some tricky tactics to kind of exclude any kind of competition or suck the data primarily to their services uh, through Android. And I think even European Union penalized Google on few occasions just because of these tactics which were used there. They could find the emails between the Google executives where it was obviously that they were exchanging these ideas and imposing them with their policies.
Yeah.
So
I heard
yeah.
some years ago, or when was it? I don't know, of some anti-competitive behavior because they were pre-installing all of their official services like Gmail and Google Photos on the Android devices. Yeah, but that's just one example, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So
But another thing I wanted to talk about was the Mozilla Foundation, or Mozilla in general, because they also they they split off their Servo project, which was their next generation browser engine, which was written in Rust, and it's a really huge project, and they now transferred it to the Linux Foundation. And it's also like similar to what, also kind of connected to what we talked earlier about the CNCF, but because
Yeah,
CNCF say
yeah, but Mozilla is a kind of non-profit foundation, right?
yeah,
Uh,
but
so
I think they are some kind of struggling these days because they had huge layoffs. They they fired all of their WebDocs editors. WebDocs is their very popular reference of web technologies like CSS attributes, all of JavaScript features, HTML. It's a resource I use like on a day-to-day basis, a daily basis, and they laid off I think, the entire team, and they are really slimming their workforce. And yeah, it's kind of worrying because if Mozilla is getting weaker and weaker, it's also a danger for like net neutrality, because we then only have like commercial browsers with Safari and Chrome, which are, I mean, they are, at least Chrome with Chromium is open source, but it's heavily developed by corporations, Google and at some point also Microsoft, and not a not-for-profit organization as Mozilla. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if you followed this story, but before there was a Chrome browser. Google actually supported in a major way Firefox, and they by default Google was a default search engine on Firefox, and actually for the search revenue which went from Firefox, Mozilla Foundation was paid like from this revenue which was accumulated like or sent from the Firefox browser. Maybe even the first queries, not I know probably not all the queries which user activated like during his lifetime, but maybe just the first ones somehow.
Yeah.
And it was a very big paycheck for the Mozilla Foundation. But at some point when Google launched their own browser, Chrome, they start at some point they stopped paying Mozilla and
I
stopped
thought
supporting.
they actually are still paying them, but their contracts are in danger of ending. I think that was the story. I'm not sure, but is there some news? Is the deal actually already dead, or is it just that it's in danger, that all of the funding for Mozilla is in danger, or is it already cancelled?
I don't really know what are the main sources of Mozilla Foundation right now. But I could guess some internet companies are probably supporting them just without any kind of additional affiliation, like for ad revenue, or maybe just directly supporting with some funds. But yeah, I also saw the last years that Mozilla is shrinking their job offers. It's also shrinking pretty much. I remember one offer which was related to the Rust programming language. It was like something like Rust evangelist or developer advocate, and they I don't know if they were able to cover it or find someone there. But my impression was that they got rid of it, and some other.
Yeah, in the big layoff this year, they also fired like part of the Rust core team, the language design team. So it's also a bit worrying about that technology. And
Mhm.
with the server and the rendering engine for Mozilla, from Mozilla Servo, which with which they wanted to replace like the existing technologies in their browser. And now that they got rid of it, I think it's also a bit more unsure what the future of their browser looks like. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
just
I think
worrying signals from Mozilla, in my opinion.
yeah. I mean, maybe they can figure out a business model where they are not struggling anymore. I mean, they have like Firefox is still pretty popular browser, maybe the second most popular after Chrome, I guess. But still, maybe there are some kind of ethical ways how they can get something out of it. Like there's so much going on right now on the internet in any possible kind of way. There are plugins for Firefox, for example. They could make a paid plugins, for example, and get something off this sales. It's just an example, but there are many. I think there are many opportunities. Of course, it's primarily a non-profit company or a foundation. They have to keep it in mind and not being like profit oriented very much. But I think it's a very legitimate purpose to survive and develop these technologies. So this way they have to earn somehow money. And it was the same problem with Wikipedia. They decided not to put any advertisement, but advertisement is not always bad. You can have ethical advertisement placed on your pages. It shouldn't be necessarily like big banners and everything. It could be just a very small snippet of text related to the article, and it should be indicated clearly. It will still generate some profit for the foundation, and I think it's pretty much legitimate if they will go this way and not like ask and beg every visitor of Wikipedia with like huge banners for the one half of the page, like please support us with $10. You could get this money like long time ago if you would act smartly and still being not profit oriented, still being very ethical. I think there is a kind of there is a way, but yeah, it's up to them to discover it.
I mean, I'm also kind of interested in if some of these infrastructures, as for example, very popular open source projects that power like critical infrastructure, if they at some point get funding from like official sources like governments or some sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be also interesting.
I think many open source projects are being supported in this or another way, and sometimes not sure about governments, but some businesses are supporting them. And for many businesses, it's just a way to give back because they're actually using these products in their solutions and they're making money out of it. And they're actually interested to see this open source project prosper and develop themselves and even develop themselves rapidly, not just lag in time, but just be up to date. And I think this way, many crucial open source projects are getting somehow support.
Yeah, but it's like only the open source projects that are somehow financially viable for the company, where they have commercial interest in. But this is some kind of thing where it's important for companies to support open source if their like commercial success is dependent on it. But I think there is also another category that is like the societal benefit of this technology, like for example Wikipedia, which is in no way commercial, but everyone uses it and it's a benefit to the society and not like individual companies. So maybe there should be some more ways to support it also from
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think many even corporations are using Wikimedia as their engine, or media wiki it's called, I guess. So there are engines on which is beneath Wikipedia is being used for internal wikis, and I saw it in many corporations already. And
yeah.
Okay,
So
great. So
you
we
wanted to
really,
talk about Jamstack.
yeah, let me see our agenda for today. I think, yeah, the upcoming events, we still have a few.
Oh,
And yeah, we have
heavy.
one. which is ongoing right now is Black Friday week, which started like yesterday, or I think it was yesterday, and it will go the whole next week, and it will finish on Monday, the 30th of November, I guess. Yeah.
I
So
feel that it's kind of absurd that this week is called Black Friday week, but it's like a whole week and not not one day, which was how it was like in the beginning. It's
yeah,
getting
they
like
kind of distributed the server load, throughout it,
yeah,
because
that can be some kind of thing, but yeah,
well, the
they want to really push forward like the Christmas business. Yeah,
the logic is very obvious because businesses are getting a lot of sales during this time, but if you will squeeze all the sales in just one day, it will be crazy for the vendors, but also for the buyers who have to hurry up and just go from one shop or even e-shop from one to another and then to another and to another one. So yeah, let's give them just a whole week so that they can take less stress and concentrate on their buyings and maybe even buy more.
yeah,
But it's a very nice opportunity, like especially Amazon is very strong in this kind of campaigns, but many other shops are catching up. If you really have something on your wish list, like some kind of tech stuff, obviously for us geeks, and it's not really something what you have to get like right now, but it's still kind of on your near term wish list. I think opportunities like this are really great to get this stuff bought or get them finally. And yeah, another campaign going on right now, and it's only related to Amazon, which is Amazon warehouse deals are getting 30% off. So, what is Amazon warehouse deals? Do you know anything about it, Lucas?
I think you told me earlier that it's like refurbished products.
Not even refurbished stuff. It's something what usually either people received and they just returned them immediately, or haven't used them heavily, but just like unpacked and, oh no, this is nothing what I was expecting, and just send them back. Maybe they did, like some people are ordering, I did it a couple of times. You would order 2 or 3 competing products because it's not very clear from the specs which one you would like to keep, but you would order a couple of them, just see in person once you receive them, and then decide, make your mind just for one thing, and another thing you would return. I think it's not something shady. Even Jeff Bezos kind of promoted this kind of behavior. I'm not sure that they are still happy about it, but at some point, Amazon introduced some apparel, some wear, some stuff which you can wear. But people were asking question, and journalists especially, like, how is it going to work? Like, once we go into a shop, we can just put it on, we can see if it fits or not, like we can try different dresses and then make our mind for
Do
just.
you mean Amazon Fashion?
No, they started even before to sell some shoes or something like this. I think the brand fashion or whatever it's called was introduced, or maybe it's related to this one. Could be, yeah. But like, and people were asking Jeff Bezos, how are you going to run it? Because it's not like people used to put it on and see if it fits or not. He said, you know what? If you're not sure about the size or about the style, just order a few things which you consider, like all of them, like if we beat 5 or 10 things, and try them, put them on at home, see what fits, and you just keep what fits and you return the rest. It was official statement from Jeff Bezos. And yeah, since then many people are doing it, and it's a kind of programmed into this algorithm. It's nothing like what you that you're abusing it. obviously there are people who are also abusing it. Like if there is some huge game coming on, I heard about this kind of behavior. If there is some huge game coming up on TV, they would order a huge TV, watch the game, and after 1 week return the TV back to the vendor. This is obviously not how it's supposed to be, but yes. Anyways, yeah, and warehouse deals are the goods which are, for the most part, are being returned by the customers in a very short time. So it's not like they're using it for 1 year and returning it, and then Amazon is selling it again. It could be some and they grade it. They grade the condition of this good in the description. You would see it. It grades from as new, so it's officially not new, but it's as good as new, and they would put it there like as new. And also they would put there different grades, but the lowest one, I think, like used or something like this, and they describe it like there is some tiny scratches, and they will put the price according to the state of this good. So if it's not a good condition but still usable, still technically okay, it's way cheaper than the new stuff which you would order usually from Amazon. And you don't have to worry very much if it's not a sophisticated technical stuff which can break like after some months or so. If it's a rather simple thing, you can always inspect it, you can use it for some time, and they have a 30 days return period where you can say, like, you know what, it's not what I expected. After a couple of days you just return it. So yeah, something like this. And they're giving 30% off as of now, and it will go until the 30th of November for this kind of goods. It's called warehouse deals. It's not for all the warehouse deals, but I guess for most of them.
Yeah, quite nice. And
Yeah.
the next feature that Amazon introduces, like an auction format, so that they can crush eBay. Just kidding.
Yeah, but this thing is pretty old already. It's nothing new. I knew the warehouse deals like at least for the last 10 years, if not even more. And I guess, yeah, something like this. And I got, just before the podcast, I got a new monopod for my camera equipment. It was, the original price was something like 18 euros for the new one, and the S new one was like 14 euros something. And I got this one, S new, and they discounted 30% more, so I went below something like below 10 euros, I guess. So yeah, pretty good bargain, I would say. Let's see when it arrives. But also, if the package is scratched a little bit or damaged a little bit, there are some bands or whatever, they would also put it as a warehouse deal. They will usually not sell it as a new one, so they would put it there as new, and they will describe that the package is slightly damaged, but the product itself can be untouched, like in this case. And I think this is the case what I have just ordered. Another one was, it was not a warehouse deals, it was another good, which is a photography backpack. So it's a backpack which has different kind of cells for lenses, for camera equipment and stuff like this, with cushioning, so you don't have to worry once you put your camera equipment there. It's well protected, and it was like $15 right now on Amazon, what is a very good price, I would say.
Quite nice.
Yeah.
And you are going to shop a lot during the Black Friday week?
No, not usually. I don't have anything on my wish list.
Yeah, really?
No, anything. And it was more of a spontaneous buy with this photography equipment. I don't know what I'm going to do with all this equipment, but I'm very much into videography and photography. So whenever there are some cool stuff, I'm eager to grab them and hopefully use one day. I'm using them actually, but not as much as I would wish, because there are some programming stuff going on, and community stuff. So we
Yeah.
have to split our time and attention to different things.
I mean, this year the holidays were maybe a bit less, so also a lot of missed out opportunities to photograph.
Hmm.
Yeah, at least for me.
Yeah, the people, I guess, were busy with different stuff other than their hobbies purely, and yeah. People in our community are going crazy about all these certifications, so it takes really a lot of time to prepare for them. So that's why I'm not going for every single one. I'm actually really very much relaxed about it. I should like get every single one of them because I'm a organizer of this community, but no, really, I'm more into projects, into cool stuff like Jamstack. It's so exciting. I just cannot waste my time learning for certifications when you can build such an amazing stuff and deploy them and see them running like every single day with a great reliability. So, yeah. Another thing which will come up, it will be on November 30th, 2020. It's a AWS Reinvent 2020 virtual conference. So
Oh,
usually this is a huge conference somewhere in America. They pick different cities from time to time, but this time it will be virtual, and I think it will be a great opportunity for our community and our members to attend it. I expect some crazy stuff, crazy campaigns there, maybe distribution of AWS vouchers for the AWS platform. What is always nice, they keep giving away like from $25 in vouchers for the AWS platform up to $50 from time to time. So it's very cool, yeah. And as we know, AWS is the number one cloud platform out there. So I run it actually. I run several projects on it for the last 8 years. So yeah,
yeah.
pretty.
What is it mostly like? Virtual servers or
Yeah. In
yeah,
my case, these are virtual machines and also S3, so object storage. Is it object? Yeah, I am always
yeah.
looking it up.
Block
And
object, yeah,
CloudFront,
file
so
storage.
it's a CDN as well. And a few more services. I'm not using like all of their 100 plus services, not even close to it, but I guess like a good dozen of services are being used on a daily basis. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's also a very dynamic platform, and I like the employees of AWS. They're very much like very direct in most of, not all of them, but people I know. They, if you have any concerns, any questions, they're up to this taking decision and like solving these problems and not going in circles of bureaucracy or whatever, in finding solution. What even with some smart companies, it's the case. Like I have experience with Google, it's kind of not as easy as with AWS, for example, in this regard.
really. I'm
Yeah.
completely like in the Google world. Uh, I run much more on Google Cloud than Amazon Web Services. Yeah, and I yeah, I'm kind of satisfied, but I'm also keen on trying new stuff out every other week. Like so.
Well, let's start with the customer service. I don't think there is a thing in Google related to customer service or something
Yeah,
like.
if you said it, I never had like any encounter with a real person. I once needed to raise like my quota for projects because I have like, what was it, like 30 projects in Firebase. So it was hitting like the quota and I needed it for some commercial projects. And yeah, but then I had like an email I had to send to somewhere or something, and that was like the only thing. But what I like about Google is the developer relations. because yeah, they do a lot of community events, or did at least before Corona, and yeah, and also a lot of informative videos about Google Cloud Platform, Firebase. They have different channels for like all of their technologies, and kind of like that. And yeah, on YouTube, just to mention it. And I watch like the Too Long Didn't Read videos every week for Google Cloud and generally for Google developers. And yeah, I'm kind of binge watching everything during like uh, my lunch pauses or something like this. Yeah,
Nice.
I'm not sure. Are you into like all the dev relations that Amazon does? Because I'm not encountering that very much. I was some time ago on their YouTube channel, but for me it's pretty much Google that is so super active on
Yeah.
producing videos and information material.
Yeah, obviously, like the Google is really very probably one of the most active companies in the FRL, or most recognized or known one. There is also Microsoft, which used to be really strong in this regard, but I think in the recent years they kind of dropped the ball a little bit. Maybe right now after Google on the second or third position, I don't know. But yeah, Google, it's also my impression, they do a lot of stuff in community regard, in developer relations and developer communities. I don't agree with everything they do, but it's obviously probably with every company we encounter. You have your own opinion and your own ways of doing stuff. And we went apart with Google developer relations, and it was not very nice. And there are open questions to them. The way how they treat the whole, like their policies are not really exactly what they promise or what they promote. They say like, yeah, we are completely like independent. The communities are completely independent, and on the next day they prescribe you which platform to run your community on, which rules to use. They have their dubious kind of rules, which are all nice and shiny, but there are. I mean, I don't want to get very deep into it.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of stuff they do is nice from the outside, but
Yeah,
one,
you're kind of negatively biased, and I'm like more positively biased on the topic. So
yeah,
yeah,
I do have
it's
just
not
my
like
experience, and I cannot
optimal
just ignore it.
that we talk about. Yeah.
Yeah. So Amazon Web Services, they're improving in developer relations, doing like their cloud communities. I think worldwide are the biggest one. Once I did research in German-speaking countries, and it was like 100% KO for Amazon Web Services. They won in, I think, in every single region by the size of the community. And these are also pretty vibrant communities. They run events like regularly, but they're also improving on it. They do some additional campaigns. They have some more programs going on, and they're very gracious when it comes to distributing the goodies or resources with their community members, with their community organizers. And if you need something for your support as organizers, they would most probably provide it to you without much questions asked. What is really nice is in general about Amazon, they are very much like customer oriented, and they are kind of copying this kind of behavior now to their developer communities as well. This is just my impression. Yeah. So there will be this Reinvent on 30th of November. We listed this event also on in our community timeline. If you are into AWS, make sure to attend it. What else, Lukas? Let's talk a little bit about the Jamstack.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I started today that I did some progress with Jamstack. I might call it even a breakthrough. I finally conquered the Jekyll framework, and I rolled out just today in the first half of the day a website, a very simple one. It's a blog, and I will not name the name, but it's, believe me, it's a very basic one, which is completely on Jamstack. It works. It's not just a blank Jamstack installation. I did some tuning to the whole website with some. I installed a couple or more of plugins, and my general experience with with Jamstack, but also specifically with Jekyll so far, I couldn't really install it nicely on a Windows machine, but it went really nice on a Ubuntu machine. So I kind of stumbled initially on a Windows, my main machine where I do most of my stuff, and then I switched at some point to my another developer PC, which runs completely on Ubuntu, and it went really straight. I mean, the dependencies, everything got installed, and it's all has to do something with all this Ruby. How is it called? Their installation dependencies or installation engine, what they use there. But the final result is pretty usable, I would say. I need a little bit to invest more time into theming this whole thing, like tuning it, the look and feel, CSS kind of magic. HTML is pretty good. The HTML skeleton is pretty good, I would say. I would need to add categories also to the blog posts, which were not there pretty like out of the box, I would say 100%. There are some kind of categories being attached to every single topic or like to every single post, but they're not yet displayed on the page once you go to the homepage of the blog. So this have to be added. Tags, I have to figure out the thing with tags. I think you can introduce them as a type.
I think there are some plugins to generate pages out of the tags that you use in your posts, but I'm not entirely sure. I used it some time ago, but yeah, it should work.
Yeah, I would
somehow.
like to define them manually. It's okay. Once I write a blog post, I can take some time to put the most important tags. But as of now, there is no such functionality in this vanilla version of Jekyll or vanilla installation of Jekyll. I have to look into it. Probably you will need to install some kind of plugin to support it, or no, I guess even you have just to extend the types or how they are called, I already forgot, roles or what there are like different types. You have posts, you have pages, and
Yeah,
some
collections.
okay.
Yeah.
But anyways, the great thing, I could really deploy a working website with Jekyll, with a Jamstack.
What did you use? Did you use Vercel or
I
did you use
deployed the code to a private repository on GitHub, but then I would rather use GitHub Pages, but it doesn't work in a free tier with private repositories, so I had to use Netlify. I also used before some kind of connection between GitHub and Vercel. It worked pretty well as well, but for this exact project I used Netlify, and it already showing this page, like this whole site, on a third level domain of netlify.app, which is their kind of native address they give you absolutely for free, but then you have a chance to also to attach your second level domain to your whole project, which what I will do actually after our conversation today. So yeah, that's a really very nice thing. Before I used to deploy just simple static pages, which I wrote like 100% by myself, every single piece of code. But now it's so much easier once you figure out how to use Jekyll to generate all this content for you, and where you use just markdown, sorry, markdown to put the content. There are some open questions how to properly embed YouTube videos into your posts. You could use the snippet directly from YouTube, which it provides kind of embedded snippet, but we will see. It doesn't look nice as of now
Yeah,
on.
I always just use the video ID, which is in the URL, and I just copy this one. I have this in my markup, and then I have all of the boilerplate, like all of the embed code I have already in my application, so I don't have to like configure like the dimensions of the iframe or anything every time, so it's just already prepared.
Cool. Yeah, I will try to figure out what is the best way to be shown on desktop, but also on mobile devices. This is really important for a responsive page. But if as a yeah, at last I will ask you for your boilerplate if I will not be able to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you also, do you want to share your story of actually 2 weeks ago, where you said to me that you get some nice projects going on with the Jamstack? Just a little bit,
I'm
don't have to go into details.
I'm building some bigger websites with completely based on Jamstack, which were previously run on WordPress and like Contao CMS. And yeah, but I'm not ready to tell anything more yet.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. Great. But at least it's really nice that you could convince some other customers like to go for the Jamstack. And this is just a pretty much no-brainer once you learn how the Jamstack works.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty reliable way to deploy your websites and your
I mean,
applications.
Jamstack is really great for marketing because if you have like a Facebook campaign, then you need a landing page where your customers can like register um, or like buy a product or something. Depends on what your campaign is. And if you have like a slow page built with some monolithic web on a very slow web server, and it takes like 10 seconds to load the page, then most of the users will be gone and never see like the whole page. And if it's like very fast and or nearly instantly, like with AMP and caching, then it's very beneficial to also the campaign performance, and that is also one of the top selling points for Jamstack, also together with AMP. Sorry for
Yeah, I'm still not very much into AMP, but I guess for some specific projects with a lot of content, articles, I might give it a try. But in general, I think like for myself, HTML5, CSS, all the usual thing, all the typical stuff, the up-to-date standards. This is what I usually use for my current projects.
Yeah, I'm kind of a radical, and I do nearly all of my say search engine optimized web pages with AMP and Jamstack. So yeah, just like all of the dynamic web applications like with Vue.js or something else are not written in AMP. Yeah.
Mhm.
But it's maybe a too radical approach, I'm not sure.
I think you are very good and very familiar with AMP, or AMP, however you want to call it. And this is really like, I saw you deployed our community page with AMP, and I saw many other AMP pages. It just blazingly fast. I mean,
Yeah, that's
Jamstack is
true.
already amazingly fast, but then on top of it, you cannot beat it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Great.
I don't think we should talk too much today, and maybe hold back some of our topics for next week, which is maybe a bit more into serverless and functions and containers in the cloud. I'm working a lot with Google Cloud Run and Cloud Functions, and I wanted to talk a bit about the difference between those services and also Google App Engine as a comparison, where to use it and what are the benefits and also cons about it. Yeah, but maybe next week.
Yeah, I think we'll have an opportunity. Not, I don't know if next week or in 2 weeks. Usually
Yeah,
we keep it like
yeah,
every
every other week. Yeah.
every other week. Um, do we want to talk a little bit about this Apple's new approach to switch from Intel or RISC, or I don't know, like what kind of processors they're using right now? I think.
Yeah, basically from CISC to RISC. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like from their usual Intel processors to ARM processors, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
kind of radical because like the last, what was it, 15 years or something, they used Intel, and Intel is kind of the industry standard for desktop computing nowadays. And but you can really see that Intel is struggling on some things, like that they have to delay their new chipsets every time because they can't manufacture them uh, with their new technologies. Yeah, um, but yeah, I think it's a big shift that is really coming, that the industry is moving from Intel and also like all of the x86 processors to ARM based processors. And since Apple did it to move to their own chips, they are called Apple Silicon, and the model they announced like a week ago is called, or was it already 2 weeks ago? I don't know, but it was called M1, and it's a desktop processor, I think, with 8 ARM cores and also a powerful GPU in it, all in one small box. And yeah, it's really great. And if you look at, for example, the cloud, it's also a trend you can watch, that already the new instances of Amazon virtual servers are hosted on ARM as well. It's also kind of a shift away from Intel. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, they started long time ago with their own chips, and then, as you said, I guess 15 years ago they dropped their own solutions and they switched completely to Intel chips, because at this time, like 10 years ago, Intel was actually killing the industry. They were the number one, and I guess not a single company, CPU company, could match them or like catch up with them. But as you said, also there is no much of innovation in the last years coming from Intel anymore. And AMD, for example, with their Ryzen, I think they they did a pretty good job to catch up with Intel processors, and their Ryzen processor is pretty much
Yeah, but if you
preferred.
look at the ARM based models, it's really revolutionary because they have much lower power consumption, and also
Mhm.
with that, not really mentionable overheating or something like you have with, I have a MacBook with Intel processor, and it's like standard that it overheats when I open like Chrome and another app. And yeah, I mean, one of their laptops is now already fanless, so it's really quiet. And yeah, but if you look at the performance charts of some benchmarks some people already did, it's also like at some point they doubled the performance of the Intel chips, and it's
No,
really great. And yeah,
yeah, it's really a very brave move, I would say, but probably also a very calculated move because ARM is actually not a chipset producer. They don't create any chips like physically. They create standards by
no,
which.
they just sell licenses to
Yeah.
use their architecture. Yeah,
Yeah, so this way, actually, what Apple does, it returns back to their own production of the chipsets and processors, which they did, I guess, with their iPad and iPhones.
yeah, they already did use like what they now call Apple Silicon. They used ARM processors that they designed in-house, like for I think since the beginning of the iPhone. But now they are using this also since they are developing like a more performant devices like the iPad Pro. They focus like more on these these high performance chips internally. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's really interesting what is coming soon. And yeah, just one other fact that is, or not a fact, but like something to think about is that the problem that ARM isn't as popular as Intel in the cloud is also that developers they use desktop PCs to develop all their stuff, and they are mostly based on x86. And now that there are coming out ARM developer machines, they can start to optimize all of their applications for ARM, and so the step to deploy those applications built for ARM also to the cloud gets much smaller. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, apps wise, we have a lot of apps like created for these mobile platforms, like tablets and smartphones. The apps which like entertainment or whatever, like games, they run all on the R-
Mm.
ARM processors, which are supplied in all mobile devices, right?
Yeah, but when you look at like database technologies
Yeah.
or all the tech stack that runs in the cloud, if the developers now are switching to more ARM based systems for their local development, this opens like a door to easier migrate also all of the cloud infrastructure to ARM based processors. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's also
So
interesting to see also like performance and also cost efficiency improvements. Yeah.
I guess they get much better deals, like when it comes to Apple, when they develop their own stuff, they have the know-how in-house, and what they have to pay, like this license fees, which are probably not as crazy. Otherwise, all these mobile manufacturers wouldn't be going for ARM processors, right? They're very, like in most of the cases, you can already get really nice, well performing mobile units for just under $100. And imagine the price tags of Apple, like this is like in another dimension. So I guess they're doing really good deals by using the ARM processors,
Yeah.
but also, as you said, it allows for a much smaller form factor. It means nowadays, when everything goes to the minimalization, it's probably a very good choice. And also the heat, just emission of the heat, is also way smaller.
Yeah.
Do you know any mobile devices which are using like fans? I don't know actually
No.
any of them. So, but I don't know much of the Intel based machines like laptops, ultrabooks, which are fanless. There were a few models, and I have a couple of models here sitting on my desk, but they are not very high performing. And you have to, like, once you watch a YouTube video and you do something like in parallel, you can feel the heat in this
Yeah.
aluminum casing. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
It's without fan, but you can still feel that it doesn't have a fan, and it kind of trying to compensate somehow.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to return my Ultrabook a couple of years ago, which is without fan. It runs on an Intel processor, which is super optimized for Ultrabooks. Doesn't have a fan and anything, and it
Yeah.
was
Even
overheating like
even
crazy.
though they claim to produce like processors that are uh, very energy efficient and not overheating that much, it's just not as good as ARM is. And yeah, and now I I watched the review of Wall Street Journal. They do some tech reviews. They have one reporter who's really funny, and yeah, she said she tried like everything to get this thing to overheat and kind of failed for like everyday stuff. And yeah, and also with the new MacBook Pro, which has also a fan in it, the fan doesn't start until like you have like 100 Chrome tabs and also an IDE running on as well. It's like crazy.
Yeah, but it's an ARM processor. For the worst case, right? Or
Yeah, I mean,
was it on
at
Intel
some
based?
point they would need to do some performance throttling if they wouldn't use fans, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
it could be the beginning of the end of Intel processors, right?
yeah, I it's kind of what I think of like some years ago from some years ago that like ARM is taking over like the processor business, but it's taking some time, and now it's at the point that the one of the biggest companies switched to ARM, and now maybe we can see that other manufacturers switch to their own ARM processors, or there are also some manufacturers do some who design some desktop grade or or processors who are optimized for the cloud based on ARM. So this is also coming. And Amazon did, I think they have their own lineup of processors that they tailored for their cloud infrastructure. Yeah, it's also very interesting to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? They will have to deal with the operating system, because obviously they cannot use um, iOS, or is it? I guess it will be iOS or Mac OS. I don't know, because iOS is actually optimized for the ARM processors.
Yeah.
Mac OS is actually primarily running on Intel family processors, right?
But I think they share the same kernel, the same operating system kernel, but I'm not sure if they are optimized for the different. Yeah, but I mean, they did already do a lot of optimization for ARM processors. They also have like an emulation for where you can run x86 optimized apps on the new ARM Macs, which is normally something that won't work very great, but I heard that it works somehow good. But yeah, really interesting.
I'm pretty sure other manufacturers of PCs will catch up or will follow Apple. And Apple is used used to be like for the last decade the forerunner of this kind of consumer technologies. Like think about iPad, iPads, all the iPads, or announcement of the iPhones. Like before they started to roll out iPhones, like all the copycats already started to simulate this kind of interfaces. And yeah, many things which Apple initially kind of went to, and all other catched up with them within half a year, 1 year at most, I guess. So yeah, I'm pretty sure we will see the copycats and the industry kind of following Apple in this trend.
Yeah.
But the key moment here is Windows. Windows is not really optimized for the RM. I will call it ARM for the ARM.
Yeah, but maybe it's if Windows isn't moving that fast forward, maybe, or I'm kind of not liking Windows, so maybe I'm biased in that direction. But yeah, maybe Windows is also a loser of this development that everything moves to ARM. And I mean, then, but on the other hand, we have just Mac and Windows. Then we have like Chrome OS, which is not really like the most popular one, and Linux. There aren't like any very big distributions who are like good for any user, for the just normal end consumer who just wants to do some multimedia and office. It's all a bit too tricky for the everyday user who doesn't care about tech and stuff. And it's kind of in the developer or operating system, or not as.
But also think of Android.
What I mean with that is, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Lucas, I interrupted you. Can you please continue?
Yeah. But what I also meant with that, I mean, there are some Linux distributions which are meant for like non-technical people, but the problem with them is that they don't have any marketing budget or any bigger resources, because they are mostly voluntarily developed or by some very small companies. And so yeah, it's not as, they don't have like the sales capacity that Microsoft has with their Windows operating system, or Apple. Yeah.
But also think of Android. Android is an operating system which is like targeted for or runs on ARM processors, right?
Yeah, but it's basically not on this kind of,
not desktop grade.
Yeah. And if you look at what Google does, they really split up Android and Chrome OS, and now are using Chrome OS also on tablets, not still yet, not Android anymore. And yeah, but I'm not sure if Chrome OS is that popular to like be a replacement for Windows or anything Microsoft does. But
yeah, I mean, they were way ahead of time when they announced their Chrome OS. I think, I don't know, like 10 years ago or so. And I kind of see where they want to go with it, and they run all the cloud infrastructure like by themselves, and Chrome OS is just it's a top layer on top of this whole infrastructure. So basically you have to delegate everything to them, as you do with Google Docs, for example, like everything in the cloud. And you can just use the Chrome OS just as a keyboard,
Yeah, like instead of like cloud gaming, you just have like cloud office. Yeah, it's basically like everything is it's just a very stupid, with very little resources, like just a client to show it and connect to the internet. But I kind of like Chrome OS, but I also think Google isn't trying hard enough to like propagate it and get. Yeah, they don't put very much of of marketing into it, or
I don't know. I think the fact alone that they keep it alive for so long, it's already very positive for them, because they used to, it's usual for them, like, to, if something doesn't fly for
yeah,
a few years, they would drop it, and it goes already, like, as I said, I guess for 10 years or so. And of course they use it somehow in their enterprise solutions. I know some companies are using like completely Google solutions, and they use the whole like park or like fleet of Chrome OS notebooks for their employees. Like, if I will get ever, I don't think I will ever buy a Chrome OS. I don't want to have such a handicapped system, where you cannot have control over your operating system like fully and do stuff locally, like a lot of them. But if
yeah. But then on the other hand, I don't think that Microsoft Windows is another good solution, or also in some ways not sufficient. And if I look at all of the Office apps, I really do not like how difficult they are. I'm kind of used to using Google Docs because also it's completely free. I think they got me with their free trial. Yeah.
Well, I use primarily like LibreOffice for my computing, like local computing, and I kind of also use Google Docs for some specific cases, but I don't want to be like 100% dependent on these guys. Like in my documentation, all of my documentation, some portion of it where I want to be able to sync it with other people, work on it jointly, maybe just for a fraction of time until we figure something out, and then store it locally. So I will use Google Docs. I don't either like solutions provided by Microsoft. Their on-premise Office is kind of it's paid solution at first, and it's not really very well optimized. I don't like how it looks. I don't know. I don't like how it feels and how it works. It's like all these free solutions, open source solutions, kind of derived a lot of functionality from Microsoft Office. I stuck with them. I used to use OpenOffice, and now LibreOffice. There are more stuff. There are some kind of online solutions where online office solutions where you can keep it under your control. It's often deployed with Nextcloud, for example, and you can have it on your own servers, maybe even locally, like at home. But yeah, I see what you mean. Microsoft Windows, I'm not very happy about it. I just, for the compatibility reasons, I have to use it like at least one of my machines to run different kind of software which is being developed for Microsoft Windows. But Linux is my operating system of choice. But I can also understand that there are not most of the people are not geeks, to use Linux systems, despite that they are getting better, they are getting more user friendly. But then you have to run your command line and install crazy stuff like Jekyll and Co.
Yeah, and also a thing I'm not really happy about is like the way user interfaces work, like with all of the X server and Xorg, like all of the infrastructure feels kind of buggy to me. And also like the newer way with Wayland is also not, I'm also not really liking it. And then you have like different user interfaces like GNOME or KDE, or what else is there, like Pantheon for elementary OS. but all of them feel like not like if I look at macOS, I can see from looking at the UI that there is a multi-billion-dollar company behind it because it just works most of the time. And yeah, at some point, some Linux derivatives are a bit more buggy, or yeah.
Maybe at some point in the future, when macOS and all their hardware will be as easily available all as Linux hardware, for example, and their free operating system and software, maybe they will have much greater exposure. And at some point, they all have decided to go with the iPhone 6, I guess, with a budget model, which is still pretty expensive comparing to all the budget models like running on Android. But I think it's a it's a pretty important thing that not everyone can afford this kind of hardware and software.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm also not too happy to just use proprietary software and also computers. I also like the spirit of free software and everything, but yeah, my point was more that you kind of see if there is a billion-dollar company behind a software because of the support and everything around it. And some of the open source operating systems are not like at this point, or are not looking as well designed and as everything like the commercial ones are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there are different types and kinds and tastes of open source movements and open source projects, and some of them are just trying to imitate what is available out there as a commercial product and make it just available for themselves and for all other people who cannot afford it, or who maybe want to change something in the software but cannot do this because it's a proprietary solution. So for in this case, in the case of Linux, I guess this is something like this. People go with Linux for most of the cases, like for desktop Linux, not for servers, because they just don't want to be in this Windows camp or this. It's a walled garden also with Mac OS. You have to be clear about it. They make a lot of decisions, not always in your because of you or like in your favor, but because it's better for them to become a multi-billion company, even more multi-billion. So, and I also watched a lot of reports by people who are repairing this Apple hardware, and they like most of them are using not Apple hardware, like Lenovo, IBM ThinkPads, for example, but also they criticize very much a lot of decisions which were made by Apple engineers in regard of hardware composition. They say like a lot of decisions don't make much sense, like from cooling perspective or from heat distribution perspective. And like, for example, if you spill some water on your keyboard, there could be made some kind of solutions where the water could like go away from the internal electronics without damaging the electronics, but because it's like 100% your fault of the operator or of the user for spilling the water, it will absolutely damage in most of the cases your machine, your your MacBook or whatever you have there. And then you will have to either repair it, what most of the cases doesn't make much sense, because they will not replace just one damaged chip. They will replace the whole motherboard, like the whole electronics of it, which will cost you probably the same price, like 80% or 80%, like as a new.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bit of the problem, that they have a SoC design, that they have every chips directly connected with the motherboard and also the RAM and every other component, so you can't like upgrade your hardware or do anything to it, then just replace the whole thing. But it's kind of how Apple does it. I also don't like it. I like to be able to replace the RAM in my computer, but at some point you have to make some compromises. For example, I need Apple for mobile application work, and it's just a work device. And for my private life, I use Linux as well, or if I'm like,
I like how they kind of protect your privacy. They really care about the privacy of their users, and they are very proactive about it. They would go and like implement features in their browser which will prevent any kind of tracking of companies like Google, for example. They would use some tracking codes, to track you all over the internet, to just monetize on you or some other like players. Apple is in many ways are very proactive about it. Like they're taking some radical steps, and now Google have to catch up. I don't know who invented this incognito mode, but it perfectly could be Apple if it's not Firefox. I guess it was not Google, but every browser nowadays, even the Edge browser has this incognito mode, or they call it private mode or whatever. What is really a
but
nice thing,
Apple really does some steps to protect privacy, but I'm not sure if it's like only greenwashing to make the products look more secure, or if it's just marketing, or if it's really that they are caring about the privacy. But either way, it's a good signal at least.
I think it's their natural stronghold because they don't mess very much with advertisement. They don't mess very much with your personal data, and they sell a lot of and get a lot of profits out of hardware sales, but also software sales. And they're very much like naturally interested to keep you secure because it's just what they can do. Like this is not what Apple like Google, what Google would naturally provide to you, because they use AdSense, they use ad analytics, and they use they are very much into advertisement and stuff like this. I don't say they are like privacy whatever evil or whatever, no, but their business model is more aligned with your data being shared with them. So this way they know more about you, and they can serve you better ads and monetize you better. It's the same with the Facebook, but it's not a natural kind of thing for Apple. So basically, if they would, they could use it as well, but it's not part of their business model. So they're going strong on it, and it's a very good marketing for them as well. But I think it's not just marketing. I think they use it really, like they try to use it as their advantage, and it doesn't harm them very much, by being so strong on your privacy and security.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think that should be all for today, or do you want to talk further?
No, I think we are pretty good on time. And we have still a couple of topics, I think even some of them from the previous session which we were discussing, to talk about them, but we will keep them for the next one.
Yeah.
It will be something about serverless functions and serverless features of Google Cloud.
Yeah.
And from my side, it will be something about low-code platforms, but maybe until then I will get a better insights of this two things which we want to discuss next time. But for now, I think we had a pretty good discussion on different kinds of topics.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's true. Okay.
Okay, everyone. So thank you for staying with us. I want to thank especially all the two people who were these are not we are like so additional two people who are watching us on the live stream. And as always, this whole podcast and the stream will be recorded. It's being recorded. You can watch it anytime. And we will meet each other again in 2 weeks. And we will have another nice chats about the tech stuff. So thank you, Lukas, for taking your time and being here
Yeah,
together.
thank you too.
Great. And okay, everyone. So see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.